Reignite protest politics.
Reignite protest politics
on a global scale.
on a global scale.
I was not the first to ask.
I was not the first to ask.
4 generations before me
4 generations before me
had done it.
had done it.
In 1973,
In 1973,
Africa Bambaataa founded the Universal Zulu Nation
Africa Bambaataa founded the Universal Zulu Nation
to forge a global hip-hop community.
to forge a global hip-hop community.
Chuck D of Public Enemy
Chuck D of Public Enemy
toured the globe in the late 1980s
toured the globe in the late 1980s
with his vision of a black planet.
with his vision of a black planet.
In the 1990s,
In the 1990s,
the Black August Hip Hop Collective
the Black August Hip Hop Collective
made connections between radical activism
made connections between radical activism
and hip hop culture
and hip-hop culture
on their trips to Cuba and South Africa.
on their trips to Cuba and South Africa.
And in the new millennium,
And in the new millennium,
immigrant and diasporic rappers
immigrant and diasporic rappers
in the heart of empire
in the heart of empire
tried to build a global solidarity with their homelands.
tried to build a global solidarity with their homelands.
These hip-hop pioneers paved the way.
These hip-hop pioneers paved the way.
Hip-hop was a means
Hip-hop was a means
for a post-civil rights generation
for a post-civil rights generation
in the U.S.
in the U.S.
to voice their experiences
to voice their experiences
as Reaganomics drained resources
as Reaganomics drained resources
from urban centers.
from urban centers.
And around the world,
And around the world,
hip-hop was being used as a means of expression
hip-hop was being used as a means of expression
for the urban poor globally,
for the urban poor globally,
in the housing projects,
in the housing projects,
barrios,
barrios,
cites,
cities,
and peripheries,
and peripheries,
who were being excluded from the promises of a new global economy.
who are being excluded from the promises of a new global economy.
Hip-hop has been a tool
Hip-hop has been a tool
for transforming rage into social critique
for transforming rage into social critique
and desperation into musical innovation.
and desperation into musical innovation.
From the LA Rebellion
From the LA Rebellion
to the Paris Uprising
to the Paris uprisings
to the London riots,
to the London riots.
this movement catalyzed the passions
This movement catalyzed the passions
of those who felt like they were living on the edge of a precipice.
like they were living on the edge of a precipice.
And today,
And today,
hip-hop has become the soundtrack
hip-hop has become the soundtrack
to the youth-led mass insurrection
to the youth-led mass insurrection
sweeping the globe
sweeping the globe
from Tahrir Square to Wall Street.
from Tahrir Square to Wall Street.
Hip-hop artists are using social media
Hip-hop artists are using social media
to challenge the corporations who control the airwaves
to challenge the corporations who control the airwaves
and the politicians who stifle free expression.
and the politicians who stifle free expression.
Rap songs protesting police violence and authority
Rap songs protesting police violence and authority
have spread from Tunisia to Egypt and Libya
have spread from Tunisia to Egypt and Libya
through YouTube ringtones and MP3s.
through YouTube, ringtones, and MP3s.
When Tunisian MC El General was arrested,
When Tunisian MC El General was arrested,
his music spread through Facebook.
his music spread through Facebook.
His song, Mr. President,
His song, Mr. President,
incited people to rise up against their now deposed ruler
incited people to rise up against their now deposed ruler
and protest massive youth unemployment,
and protest massive youth unemployment,
shortages, and police repression. The digital underground has become the CNN of the people.
The digital underground has become the CNN of the people.
5 years ago,
5 years ago,
the American rapper Nas
the American rapper Nas
proclaimed that hip-hop is dead.
proclaimed that hip-hop is dead.
But a new generation across the planet
But a new generation across the planet
is showing
is showing
that people can rival corporate control over the airwaves.
that people can rival corporate control over the airwaves.
They can take back the power of their words.
They can take back the power of their words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, yo, when I say people, y'all say power. People.
Power.
People.
Power.
Word. What's up, y'all?
What's up, Rod Stars?
My name is Rod Stars, and I am one half of Rebel Diaz.
My name is Rod Stars, and I'm one half of Rebel Diaz.
3 years ago,
3 years ago,
right around this time,
right around this time,
in the South Bronx,
in the South Bronx,
me and my crew,
me and my crew,
consisting of folks from Hunts Point in the South Bronx,
consisting of folks from Hunts Point in the South Bronx,
before there was an idea of occupying Wall Street,
before there was an idea of occupying Wall Street,
decided to occupy an abandoned building,
decided to occupy an abandoned building,
an abandoned candy factory,
an abandoned candy factory,
which today is known as the Rebel Diaz Arts Collective.
which today is known as the Rebel Diaz Arts Collective.
Now, the owner,
Now the owner,
luckily for him,
luckily for him,
decided to be cool with us.
decided to be cool with us.
So we break him off a little bit of rent a month.
So we break him off a little bit of rent a month.
My main point being
My main point being
is that in the hood,
is that in the hood,
we are occupied
we are occupied
by the NYPD,
by the NYPD,
by gentrification.
by gentrification.
So it was only right
So it was only right
that we occupy a building.
that we occupy a building.
MTV Cribs
MTV Cribs
does not come to the South Bronx.
does not come to the South Bronx.
You would think
You would think
that with all the money in hip hop,
that with all the money in hip hop,
we would have autonomous hip hop community centers all over New York.
we'd have autonomous hip hop community centers all over New York.
So today,
So today,
I'm going to share a little bit of what we do.
I'm going to share a little bit of what we do.
When hip hop first started,
When hip hop first started,
it started out just like this in the park.
it started out just like this in the park.
Hip hop was free.
Hip hop was free.
It wasn't a $200 ticket to go to Yankee Stadium.
It wasn't a $200 ticket to go to Yankee Stadium.
It was accessible to everyone,
It was accessible to everyone,
as it should be today.
as it should be today.
Hip hop is the voice of the voiceless.
Is the voice of the voiceless.
Voiceless.
This music is resistance. It's the voice of the poor.
This music is resistance. It's the voice of the poor.
All right? We are not the voice of corporate America,
We are not the voice of corporate America,
which only makes it right
which only makes it right
that as the hip hop community,
that as the hip hop community,
we support Occupy Wall Street.
we support Occupy Wall Street.
For us,
For us,
we've been living
we've been living
a recession
a recession
since 1492.
since 1492.
We appreciate
We appreciate
that a lot of folks
that a lot of folks
have come out
have come out
and recognized
and recognized
that capitalism
that capitalism
is a problem.
is a problem. Woohoo!
Now, I was gonna come spit some rhymes,
I was gonna come and spit some rhymes.
but we gonna do that later, not in the people's mic.
We're gonna do that later, not in the people's mic.
We gonna maybe get like a little cipher, and if there's other MCs, we can make it a community affair.
Sounds good.
All right, we still doing open mic. So real quick, I want to share this.
Real quick, I want to share this.
When we occupied the building,
When we occupied the building,
it was only about 15 or 20 of us.
There was only about 15 or 20 of us.
Now that energy
Now that energy
came from a self-challenge.
came from a self-challenge.
We decided
We decided
that if we couldn't organize our immediate block,
that if we couldn't organize our immediate block,
we might as well be fake gangster rappers.
we might as well be fake gangster
If
rappers.
we're rapping and putting our fists up at shows
Because if we're rapping and putting our fist up at shows
and not organizing
and not organizing
on our immediate block,
on our immediate block,
all we were doing
all we were doing
was preaching to the choir.
was preaching to the choir.
What we learned
What we learned
is that everybody in your community is valuable.
is that everybody in your community is valuable.
I had brothers that I doubted
I had brothers that I doubted
that taught me a political education lesson.
that taught me a political education lesson.
That you don't gotta wear a Malcolm X shirt
That you know how to wear a Malcolm X shirt
to commit a revolutionary act.
to commit a revolutionary act.
We had brothers come and do electricity.
We had brothers come and do electricity.
We had unemployed carpenters come and put up drywall.
We had unemployed carpenters come and put up drywall.
We didn't get no money from no nonprofit.
We didn't get no money from no nonprofit.
We got love and support from our community.
We got love and support from our community.
So we are
So we are
an autonomous hip-hop community center
an autonomous hip-hop community center
for the people and by the people.
for the people and by the people.
We teach the 4 elements of hip-hop.
We teach the 4 elements of hip-hop.
Scratch that, we teach the 5 elements of hip-hop.
Scratch that, we teach the 5 elements of hip-hop.
We got B-boy and B-girl classes.
We got B-boy and B-girl classes.
We got walls for graffiti artists to do and practice on.
We got walls for graffiti artists to do and practice on.
We got a stage built up with turntables so the DJ, the foundation of hip-hop, can rock.
We got a stage built up with turntables so the DJ, the foundation of hip-hop, can turn up
Y'all
and
in
rock.
college, y'all in college. All right? And we have open mics, a monthly open mic, so young people can actually practice on stage.
We have a monthly open mic so young people can actually practice on stage.
And we have political education
And we have political education
to fulfill the 5th element,
to fulfill the 5th element,
which is knowledge.
which is knowledge.
Word. As far as Rebel Diaz goes, the hip-hop group,
As far as Rebel Diaz goes, the hip-hop group,
we just got back from Occupy Chicago.
we just got back from Occupy Chicago.
Last Saturday,
Last Saturday,
about 5,000 people
about 5,000 people
took a second attempt
took a second attempt
at taking over the Occupy the Horse area.
occupy the horse area.
We marched
We marched
and performed
and
in
performed
solidarity.
in solidarity.
We just put out a mixtape
We just put out a mixtape
called Occupy the Airwaves.
called Occupy the Airwaves.
Make sure to download that for free.
Make sure to download that for free.
The idea of Occupy the Airwaves
The idea of Occupy the Airwaves
isn't limited
isn't limited
to Rebel Diaz.
to Rebel Diaz.
We need to have
We need to have
music
music
that represents the true culture of resistance, which is hip-hop.
that represents the true culture of resistance, which is hip-hop.
Because the same corporations
Because the same corporations
that fund hip-hop
that fund hip-hop
are in cahoots
are in cahoots
with the same corporations
with the same corporations
that fund the prison industrial complex.
that fund the prison industrial complex.
As hip-hop,
As hip-hop,
we make a separation.
we make a separation.
We have the rap music industry,
We have the rap music industry,
which is owned by the 1%,
which is owned by the 1%,
and you have hip-hop culture,
and you have hip-hop culture,
which is owned by the people,
which is owned by the people,
and which is for the people,
and which is for the people,
which is very much alive today.
which is very much alive today.
My main reason for being here
My main reason for being
is
here
I wanted to share that story.
is I wanted to share that story.
That's my story.
That's my story.
Now it's your story.
Now it's your story.
Now you,
Now you,
I have a challenge for y'all.
I have a challenge for y'all.
Y'all need to go back
Y'all need to go back
and do some self-reflection
and do some self-reflection
and come up with one promise to yourself.
And come up with one promise to yourself.
Organize
Organize
5 people
5 people
on your immediate block.
on your immediate block.
If you're not from the hood,
If you're not from the hood,
that's cool.
that's cool.
Organize your dorm.
Organize your dorm.
5 people from your floor.
5 people from your floor.
If you live in housing,
If you live in housing,
organize 5 people from your building.
organize 5 people from your
The
building.
reason I'm sharing
The reason I'm sharing
is that y'all are in a position of privilege.
is that y'all are in a position of
Because
privilege.
y'all have access to education,
Because y'all have access to education,
access to information.
access to information.
Now, this ain't a feeling of you are less oppressed than I am.
Now, this ain't a feeling of you are less oppressed than I am.
Everybody got their own context.
Everybody got their own context.
So just organize people around you.
So just organize people around you.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
When I say people, y'all say power.
Power.
People,
Power!
people.
Power!
The power
The power
is in the people.
is in the people.
When you look at thousands of people,
When you look at thousands of people,
you gotta multiply that to 10,000s of people.
we gotta multiply that to 10,000s of
And
people.
multiply that times 10 to 100,000 people.
And multiply that times 10 to 100,000 people.
Word.
Word.
I don't know really what I have to continue with. Y'all wanna hear some raps?
Yeah!
Alright. I'm gonna try to, get my voice out there. So let's try not to do the people's mic because it'll be crazy.
You got it.
So let's just listen. Alright? They stole 3/4 of Mexico in 1848, abducted Africans and then sold them as slaves. Genocide against the natives, and for that we give thanks. Wrote their history books and made themselves great. There's 2 types of crime: power and survival. Crimes that deal with power are the ones you might not find, dude. Look at the trillions that were stolen from the Wall Street bailout, and Mumia's still stuck in the jailhouse. They sick. They killed little Ayana Jones. She was 7 years old. The story gets old. Look at the war. Look at colonialism. Look at the trade agreements and the profits from their prisons. We know the aggressor. They train them in Georgia at the School of the Americas where they teach torture. My father's a survivor. He talks about it often. Thousands disappeared, no funeral or coffin. And I can't harm them without the charge of terrorism. But they the terrorists, man. I charge their whole system. From the filthy politician to the lying professor. Guilty as charged, we convict the oppressor. I plead my case, they guilty. To the crooks thrown the book, they guilty. For the people, we say they guilty. Say guilty! Guilty! Say guilty!
Guilty!
Alright, I'm gonna do a little something more. They go like this. It's called Which Side Are You On? It's an old labor song. You know what I'm saying? And it's a beautiful thing because in these Occupy movements, we've been having the unions, organized labor. You know what I'm saying? Struggling for workers' rights, organizing with students. If we really talk about mass uprising, it's gotta be the students, the teachers, you know what I'm saying, the lunch ladies, everybody organized. So that's the importance. So this is an old school labor song. So let's try to see if we can do this since we were doing it with the people. The song is called Which Side Are You On? And the hook goes, which side are you on?
Boy, which side are you on, my Lord? Which side are you on, boy? Which side are you on, my Lord?
See, I gotta draw a line, I can't take it no more. If you ain't down with revolution, what you waiting for? Making money for suckers and not communities poor. Ripping flags off of coffins, man, this ain't our war. Colonized and terrorized by the world's biggest killers. The US government, the biggest weapon and drug